Good morning. In today's video we're going to see how you should structure a strength and conditioning session for Judo. But first of all, why should you listen to me? First of all, I've done Judo for 15 plus years, and in the last 5 years I started to interest myself into the world of strength and conditioning and strength methodology and training. So I've applied a lot of different training methodology, and I can tell you guys I've done a lot of bullshit. I've done a lot of stupid stuff, from functional, more athletic stuff, from basic powerlifting, bodybuilding, training, and now I've come to the understanding of what it looks like to have a good strength and conditioning session. So I've listened to a lot of coaches, I've listened to a lot of other strength and conditioning coaches, I've applied their methods, I've read a lot of stuff online, also articles, and today I'm going to share with you what are my understanding of what a good strength and conditioning session looks like for a Judo player. First of all, I want to teach you also the principles that I use to create and build my programs that I use personally on myself to improve as an athlete and as a judoka. The principles are three: compounds before isolation, fast before slow, higher effort before lower effort. What do I mean by that? Compound movements, so things like back squats, bench press, pull-ups, and hinges, so deadlifts and Romanian deadlifts, and the deadlifts variation in general, comes before the isolated movements, so things like bicep curl or leg extension. Why? Because compound movements require you to be focused, require you to have some degree of coordination before to execute. Okay, so if you're sore, if you already have done isolation work before, you're going to be more tired for your compound lifts. So do compound lifts before and isolation later, because isolation, it's also, if you're tired, you can just go to failure and still have a good stimulus to improve from that, while if you're doing poorly a compound exercise, you're going to get less gains from it. Fast exercises before slow exercises. What do I mean by that? Jumps, plyometrics, Olympic weightlifting, med ball throwing. I don't really like med ball throwing, but you get the idea. Fast exercises require you to do a very high focused effort, otherwise you won't develop the adaptation necessary to increase your power. While slow contraction, so strength, basic strength training or isolation training, can do good also if you're not doing it at the highest effort. Okay, also higher effort, lower effort. If you're doing your conditioning, let's say conditioning session, before doing your compound lifts, you're going to be too much tired to express the maximal effort necessary to becoming stronger. So you do the lower effort activities at the end of the session. Also because you're more tired and you're also more likely to skip. From a psychological level, it's better to do the hard stuff before and the easy stuff later. To put it very, very simply, this is what strength and conditioning looks like. You do the hard stuff before and you do the easier stuff later, which I'm not saying they're easy, I'm saying that they are easier, and you're less likely to skip them. So what is the order that you should use to do your exercises? The first thing that you should perform is your jumps or plyometrics. So things like drop jumps, consecutive broad jumps, single leg jumping, all of that stuff, you do that before doing everything else, because you need to be fresh, you need to be springy, you need to be jumpy, you need to be very reactive to what you're doing. If you're doing that in the middle or at the end of your session, you're not going to put necessary effort to develop that tendon stiffness that allow you to be that springy and that reactive to the ground. The second thing is Olympic lifting, which still requires you to have high effort and requires you to push as hard as you possibly can, but it's still slower than doing jumps or plyos. So Olympic weightlifting, you do that as a first or second exercises. Then you proceed with your squat pattern exercises. Why you should start with squat instead of starting with the upper body exercises? Because squatting requires you to have a higher motor unit recruitment than other exercises. What the hell does that mean? Basically, it means that you uh, use a lot more muscles at the same time during squat patterns rather than other exercises, which means that your system, which means that your body is much more taxed during a squatting exercises than doing, let's say, a bench press. So you do a squat exercise, which could be back squat, Zercher squat, front squat, whatever you may prefer or need before doing anything else. After doing your squat, you do your hinge. What is a hinge exercise? A hinge exercise is something that works your posterior chain. So a deadlift, a Romanian deadlift, and hyperextension is a hinge exercise, which will activate your posterior chain, your hamstrings, your back extension muscles, and basically all your posterior chain muscle. Okay, it's a better way to put that. After that, you proceed with your upper body compound exercise. So upper body pushing or upper body pulling, which could be upper body pushing, could be bench press, could be dips, military press, whatever. Upper body pulling is usually a row or weighted pull-ups, weighted chin-ups, something that will going to work your pushing muscles, so your pecs, your triceps, and your upper body pulling muscles, so your biceps and your back, upper back muscles. After doing all of the compound lifts, so upper body, lower body squatting, lower body hinging, upper body pushing, upper body pulling, you going to perform your isolation exercises. So let's say that you need to work on your neck. You then go work on your neck. You're going to work on, let's say, your elbows or your wrist in order to make them more robust and resilient. And in the end, you're going to do your conditioning session. So you do your Tabata, you do your zone 2 cardio, or whatever that is. And I can get it that it might look overwhelming, but it also depends. I'm not saying that you, in one session, you should do all of that stuff. It depends on the type of split that you're doing, okay? Let's say that, for example, your split is a 4-day upper-lower. If your weekly split is an upper-lower, you're going to perform, let's say, an upper body pushing, upper body pulling, an isolation exercise, and then your conditioning session, okay? Or let's say that on your lower body day, you're going to perform jumps and plyos and doing your squat and your hinge. You don't need to do all of that in one singular session, but you need to, let's say, distribute all of this thing across different training days, depending, of course, on your judo training and also on your life, because we are not professionals. We cannot have that much time to training, and so we need to distribute all of that exercises across our week. So in order to do that, you need to do a split of these exercises, and I can tell you about that maybe into another video on how to do that. But basically, in a 2 to 4 strength and conditioning session a week, you will be able to cover all of that 8 let's say stuff that you need to perform in order to become a better judoka. And if you need some help to structure your strength and conditioning session, feel free to leave a comment, feel free to DM me, contact me, have a one-on-one call with me. There is a link in the description that you can click and book a one-on-one call with me. It's free. I don't want any money from that. I will likely be happy to help you with whatever question you might have on judo, rehab, or strength and conditioning. Thank you for watching. Remember to aim upward as always.